Hi, I'm James Shillinglaw for Insider Travel Report, and I'm here today with Doni Belau, who is a travel expert and founder of Girls Guide to the World. Now, there have been a lot of women-only travel operations coming out lately, and Donnie's been around for a few years now, and she's created a really unique kind of operator for women-only travel. And we're going to talk to her about this company and a whole lot more on Insider Travel Report. First, what is Girls Guide to the World and when did you start it?
Well, believe it or not, we've been around for over 16 years, going on 17 this September. It started out as Girls Guide to Paris, and it was literally an online guide to Paris. Slowly morphed into a tour company for women only. And we started out like I just did one tour to Paris, and then the next year, one tour to Provence. So very slowly, 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 and really kind of ballooned after the shutdown. After 2020, after COVID,
Right.
there was obviously a huge desire for people to travel. And, we went from doing 40 trips then. I think now we're doing 85 this year to 50 different countries. So we go
Wow.
almost everywhere you can think of. And we're trying to find more places to go. So it has been building over the years, but really has grown exponentially in the last 5 or 6 years.
What's your background in travel? What did you do before you started Girls Guide to the World?
Look, I had no business starting this business, and I could tell people. I always say I could write a book on how not to start a business. I did not have a business plan. I had no background in travel other than I loved traveling. We did have, and we have had an apartment in Paris for about
Mhm.
25 years. So I had the Paris part of Girls Guide to Paris. And like I said, it was really meant to be an online guide. That's how we started. And then I really grew into being a tour guide. And then now we have about 30 other tour guides. We use DMCs, destination management companies, for half of our trips, and the other half are about half of them are in house that we organize everything ourselves. So, yeah, it's been a learn on the go process, which happens to a lot of entrepreneurs. But yeah, we're in a really great place now. We're very happy with where we are.
Now, what trips do you offer and to what destinations? Can you describe the typical Girls Guide trip and how do you design those trips?
You name a place other than we don't have Antarctica or either the polar destinations yet. But we have, I don't know, 5 or 6 destinations in Africa, from Zambia to Botswana, Morocco, Egypt, Kenya, Tanzania, Namibia. We're in all over Europe, almost every country in Europe. Especially, up we haven't done as much Eastern Europe, which I'm incorporating probably for 2027. Our big sort of new trips this year, we added on the Galapagos. We did a private yacht to the Galapagos that sold out. It's probably our most expensive trip ever, and it sold out in a matter of days. So we added another one. So that's a private female-owned yacht, and then we're following that up with an extension trip to the Amazon. So super excited about that. We do a lot of Asia, about 4 trips to Japan. We're doing China for the first time. We're doing the UAE for the first time this year. South America, Central America, Mexico, Canada. So really, all over the globe.
Who is your target customer, their age, range, income, psychographic?
That's something I have to say I've learned over the years. When I started, I kind of just put this out there. And it's not a surprising thing that people similar to me and my age were attracted to it. But what we know now, based on both analysis by us, but also surveys by a company called Journey Woman, who does a great job, looking at the women-only solo travel world, which has grown exponentially in the time that I've been doing this. We have learned that most women who are traveling solo, and even though they're joining a group, not 80-90% of the ladies who are coming on our trips are coming solo.
Okay.
So most women who travel solo are over 45. And basically, of that group of women, we get a mixture of single, never been married, divorced, widowed, partnered up, and or married. We've got all of the above, and which actually makes for a wonderful mix. So
Right.
when people ask me, and a lot of times I'll get a lady who's never been on a trip, and they'll ask me, oftentimes have calls with people before they join a trip, and they'll say, well, what age group, do you, what is the age of most people? And I'll say, most people who travel solo are over 45. However, what I love about our design is that we're not saying this is just for over 50s, or this is just for 30s, or this is just for 60s, because I think that's kind of looking at women through a real small lens. When I see a 22-year-old join a trip, and you can start at 21, and the oldest we've had is 88, but you can go to 101 as long as you can walk. But when I see a 20 something connect really deeply on a trip with somebody who's 75, that just fills my soul, and it's beautiful what happens. And the reason that happens is that we pay a lot of attention to connection, and making sure that the ladies sit next to a different person at each meal, so that these small groups of ladies, and we never take more than 10. So it's 6 to 10. So very small groups get to connect. And what's so amazing about that is then they become friends, and they stay friends, and they'll go on other trips together or visit each other. So that's kind of the great takeaway, or the best souvenir you can have from a trip, is a new friend or three.
Now, there's several companies focused on women-only travel today. What makes your company different or unique?
Well, I'm loving seeing how many more companies there are from when I first started, and how many more people know about this as a travel opportunity than did 16, 17 years ago when we started. Even the trip, travel advisors and trip planners, and folks I'd talked to in the industry when we first started were like, wow, that's a great idea. Like they'd never heard of it before. So there's tons of other really great companies. What I'm seeing in general is that we are the largest um, of women only tour company that focuses on high end
Mhm.
travel. So a lot of the other companies, um, you might have to share a room with somebody that you don't know, because that keeps the costs down. The group might be 20 or 12 or 40, larger. So what we are probably one of the most expensive out there, but our ladies, once they come, and of course you have to have some means to come, but once you do, and everything's included, and you get wine with dinner, and you always have your own room, and the price, there's no single supplement, the price is for your own room, and we stay at 4 and 5 star hotels, and we have all these special and unique experiences. We see that a large percentage come back and really appreciate that sort of curation that's involved in making something really special. And I think that there's space for all of us. There's a lot of other companies that are really adventure focused, like people that want to raft and canyon, and do climb mountains, which I think is really exciting. My ladies, in general, are not wanting to do that. They're interested more in cultural immersion is the number one thing when we pull them, what they're interested in.
What's new in the Girls Guide's new 2026 collection of women-only trips? How have you designed them, given the fact that women-only travel and solo travel has become increasingly popular and is now really mainstream?
Well, first of all, it really warms my heart that it's become mainstream. And I can tell that change from the beginning. And in the beginning, I used to talk to every single person. Now there's too many people coming on our trip, so I can't talk to everyone. And we have wonderful sales people that know the company really well, that will talk to you. But in the beginning, the ladies would say, let me ask my husband to see if I can go. And now nobody ever says that. Nobody ever says that. So I think it has become, there was always girl trips, like we're going to go out with our girlfriends, or we're going to go with our sisters to go, for 3, 4 days for a long weekend. But I think what it is too is that we've noticed, and I listened a long time ago to a podcast about how because of the hormone levels that shift in both men and women around 50, we have, less estrogen, which is sort of the caring hormone. Men have more of it, so their testosterone levels go down. So it basically shifts where we get more adventurous, and men, this is obviously super in general, but across the board, they can see this. Science can, that we get more adventurous and men get more interested in nesting and cooking and gardening, because they've had to go out there and conquer the world, and we've had to take care of not only ourselves and our career, but also a lot of times kids and parents and so forth. That we're like, this is our time. And I hear that all the time. This is our time. And I love to see that change in the feeling of women, particularly in the United States, and all places where women are more free, to see that change in their sense that they deserve this, and this is actually helping to take care of themselves, because we've seen, you've probably talked about this in your report, but how wellness, trips can save lives. You actually are extending your life by taking vacations more than once a year. They've actually proven this. So I love to see this change. And I think that how it's reflected in our business, is that we see, I think in the beginning it was harder to get people to go to really far-flung places. Now I've got lines of people waiting to go to Bhutan and Nepal and really unusual destinations that are better off guided actually. But people are really excited about what I would call more exotic, um, perhaps more difficult or more um, far-flung trips.
What's different about what women want in a guided vacation today? What do they want? Trips built around identity, emotional reset, meaningful conversation. What are the things they're looking for?
I think in the beginning, I was, you're kind of, I just guessed based on because, I wasn't going to go out into the field with what I thought people liked. I guessed based on this is what I like, and I'm going to see if anyone else does. So, yes, it turns out other people did. So that was great. But, I think I originally, we just started with, Paris, and then we did a garden trip to the UK. So it got more and more exotic as things ventured out, shall we say. But the difference is that what I think I originally thought that it was really so much, and it really still is, about the hotel and the restaurants. So you can find out, the most important places to see, but you've got to nail the hotel and restaurants. That's so important. But now I'm seeing that the most important thing before those things is this sense of cultural immersion. Am I learning what life is like for a woman in Bali, in Tibet, in Mongolia, in Uganda? What is life like for them? And can I have a one-on-one or a group experience with some other women? And how do we accomplish that? Because that's not on your average, tour, is that sort of intimate connection with someone who is part of that culture that you're visiting. So we are putting that really probably at the forefront. And then, of course, we still have to have killer hotels and amazing experiences in terms of food and interactive activities. People love a hands-on thing. And that I've learned too. I realize, like, when you're traveling a lot or just traveling once or twice a year, but after 4 or 5 days of sightseeing, learning about history, orally, and eating dinner and sleeping, you also need to do something with your hands, whether that's a cooking class, perfume making, flower arranging. There's 100 different things. But somehow, when you get your hands and your motor skills involved, it brings that cultural impact sort of inside your body, if that makes any sense. It's not passive, whereas just looking and learning auditorially is not enough. So I think I've learned as I've gone along, and we always do surveys asking people, what could we do better? What would be interesting to you? We're even now asking them, what are the new places that you want to go? So you learn from your customers too.
Where do women want to go on a trip today? What destinations? And what is that different from a few years ago?
Yeah, it seems to change, doesn't it? So, you can look at where, the most touristed places, of course, France and Italy and Spain and, places, but it's always interesting to see how that does change. Like, Costa Rica was hot for a while, then Turkey was hot for a while. Croatia is really people are dying to go to Croatia, and one can understand why it's gorgeous. Croatia is definitely a hot ticket item. And Bhutan and Nepal were sold out so quickly that we had to do a second trip. Amalfi is probably our number one destination, so that makes
Well, that's easy. Nothing.
it's easy, right? That makes sense. So that's like everybody wants to go there, but Bhutan and Nepal are the ones that are sort of more interesting as a surprise, I guess. So it does change though. So one year I noticed like people everybody wants to go to Barcelona, and then probably because you heard about the over touristing in
Right.
the summer, then it's harder to get to people to sign up for Barcelona. But we don't go in the middle of it's a big part of our ethos or our mission to not over tourist a place. So if
Sure.
a place is touristy like Venice or Barcelona, and there's tons of places that we know are, so we will go in an off season or a shoulder season. But I think that interestingly, I'm doing a survey right now for 2027, and the top vote getter I was surprised. I put like 21 or 25 different pretty wild, far-flung ideas out there. Top vote getter was Vancouver and a luxury train ride to Lake Louise and Banff, which I was
Signor Danuri Yargo, it's always
yes,
wonderful.
the Rocky Mountaineer or whatever. So I was surprised by that because, it's just always surprising. Another trip that was at the top of their list was Oslo and Svalbard, or,
So I've so in there.
yeah, oh, cool. So way, way up there, and where you can see the polar bears. So people are definitely interested in seeing these unusual, like we're doing a trip to Madagascar, seeing the lemurs, seeing animals in the wild in particular is always something that sells a trip. Or a special event, like we're doing solar eclipse
Right,
trip
right.
to Iceland, of course. These are once in a lifetime things. Same with being on a private luxury yacht in the Galapagos and swimming with penguins and giant tortoises. I mean, these are our bucket list items. So, that's basically what I see. And that expands, that keeps expanding in terms of what people are interested in. I think Svalbard, is a new one that is probably like go see it before it gets too traversed.
Where can travel advisors go to find out more about Girls Guide to the World and you as the company's leader?
Well, we love to talk to advisors, and we can do that anytime. Info at Girls Guide to the World is the best way to start. Obviously, take a look at the website. But we're learning from a lot of travel advisors that they have a lot of older women that, are either widowed or husband doesn't want to travel, or, they're just single for whatever reason, who really want to go out and see the world and are sick of waiting for someone else to go with them. And they, have the means and want to go. And it is great to talk to that advisor to tell them a little bit more about our trips and the style, the vibe, the energy, the focus of our trips, which I'm hoping is coming through on our interview today.
Yeah.
But also, of course, it's great to talk to that client too. And we are happy to do both or do them together or separately, however they wish. And then we do offer 10%. And it is a little bit less. I think some people offer 15, but our price point is pretty high. A lot of our trips are over 10,000. So it's actually a pretty decent return for their effort. And a lot of times they will find once they go on one trip, the ladies will want to come back.
So, Donnie, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us about your company. Sounds like a wonderful company and a really a great choice if our travel advisors have women-only clients interested in this kind of group travel.
Well, thank you for being one of those good guys that's supporting all the ladies out there. So we really appreciate that.
I'm James Shillinglaw, and this is Insider Travel Report.